this is workshop number 1, video number 11, where I get to summarize everything in all the other videos. So we know from the theory part of the workshop that the reason that you procrastinate, the reason that you choose the easy tasks, and the reason that you put things off is simply because you have the primitive part of your brain. That part of your brain is incredibly valuable because it allows you to do things on autopilot. It systematizes all the tasks that you don't need to think about, like brushing your teeth or driving a car. And then because of the primitive brain, we need to create a plan, because the primitive brain controls the motivational triad, which makes us seek pleasure, avoid pain, and become energy efficient. So if we allow our primitive brain to schedule what we're going to do in the moment, it's always going to choose something that's fun, or at least quite easy and quite, something in our comfort zone. It's always going to choose something that doesn't feel uncomfortable because it wants us to avoid pain, and pain in the modern world is just discomfort of calling someone or doing something that we don't want to do. And it's always going to choose the most energy efficient task, which for most of us, it's scrolling through emails and responding to emails. That requires no energy whatsoever, but it makes you feel efficient. But most of the stuff that's in your inbox is not actually going to move you closer to your goals. Yes, there are a few things, but you could batch those few important emails into an hour or so a day replying to essential stuff. So procrastination is caused by your primitive brain. The bigger your goal, the more you're going to procrastinate. And so when you create a plan, it allows that rational prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that creates logic and knows exactly what steps you have to take to get closer to your goal, it allows you to plan those. And so you also need to add to that having a compelling reason or a why. Why do you want to hit your goal? Why do you want to become more efficient? Why do you want to do all of these things? And so when you understand about your primitive brain, when you understand you have to have a plan, because otherwise in the moment, when you decide to do something in the moment rather than planning it ahead of time, your brain is always going to choose the easiest thing or the most pleasurable thing or the most energy efficient thing. You then can override your primitive brain. So how do you create an effective plan? The number one thing, you do a mind flush. It can either be a general mind flush, everything that's on your mind, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling busy, or sometimes it'll be a mind flush on a particular problem, which is very focused. How can you solve this issue? How can you make this process more efficient? However you've done your mind flush, the most common kind is going to be the general one. You're going to then prioritize it. And then you're then going to circle all the things that need to get done this week. And then once you've identified the things that have to get done this week, you will prioritize them, decide your top 3 tasks and your number 1 priority that has to get done tomorrow. If you want to create a focus for your week, say maybe finishing up loose ends or open projects, or getting all your quotes out, or following up on action plans, whatever it may be, it's great to have a focus for the week. You then need to identify when you are most efficient during the week and during the day, so that you can schedule those priority tasks that you really don't want to do for times when you're going to be most likely to override your primitive brain. And then the critical things, utilize that first 90 minutes of your day for the number 1 priorities or your top 3 tasks. That is the time when you're going to get most done, have the biggest impact, and it's when you have the most control over your day. If you are someone who has technicians or you're in customer service, it may be that first 90 minutes of your day is when most of your problems come in. Then it is most important for you to utilize the 50-minute blocks of time later on in the day to schedule your priorities and get other tasks from your prioritized mind flush done. For all of you who have control over your first 90 minutes of the day, that's your most productive time, but then you also need to be scheduling in 50-minute blocks later on in the day to work on additional priorities, or to group together similar tasks like returning emails or returning calls or quotes or whatever it may be. So that is how you determine your priorities. That is how you determine which time you need to schedule them to be able to override your primitive brain's urge to procrastinate. So then the final step, once you've got your priorities and when you know you're most efficient, is actually scheduling those tasks somewhere. Do not get hung up on where you're going to schedule them, whether it's going to be on a piece of paper, whether it's going to be in a planner, whether it's going to be on your phone. How you schedule it does not matter. It is identifying your priorities and when you're going to complete them, and then making sure you do complete them when you say you're going to. That is the only thing that you have to do. You can schedule your top 3, you can write down your top 3 tasks and the time you're going to do them on a post-it note and carry it around with you all day. You could even write it on the back of your hand in Sharpie if that's what it takes. Don't get hung up on how you're going to schedule your priorities. Now, I like to handwrite them. It to me it just seems more significant. It registers with my brain more and seems more important. But I know plenty of people who schedule their priorities. They do their mind flush. They do everything on OneNote or other programs like that. So however you schedule it, doesn't matter, but the goal is to prioritize your tasks and identify your top 3 tasks, your number 1 priority. And then you will look at your calendar or wherever you're scheduling it or whatever you have coming up during your day, and at least 24 hours in advance, or a worst case scenario, early in the morning, you're going to schedule your time for the day. When you look at your calendar, the first thing is you'll have all those tasks on your calendar that you can't get out of, meetings that other people have scheduled. That's the first thing that goes on your calendar. The second thing is all those fun things that are going to encourage you to work with focus and determination, eliminate distractions, so that if you plan an hour to get a quote done, or you plan an hour to follow up on all your open sales or quotes or whatever it may be, you will work with focus knowing that you have something that you enjoy to look forward to. Same thing if you're working on a huge project, plan something fun for in the evening. So schedule the things you enjoy, number 2. Number 3, that's when you actually are going to schedule all the things from your priority list, and you're going to utilize the first 90 minutes of the day. You're going to add in 50-minute blocks. You're going to identify when you are most motivated, when you're least motivated, when you have the most energy, and just choose the times when you're most likely to be able to honor your plan. And that's when you schedule your priorities. And you can also batch in tasks that you do every day that are similar, like replying to emails or returning calls. And then the other things that you need to remember, make sure that you complete each task before you move on, because incomplete tasks are going to whiz around in your head and create feeling of busyness and overwhelm. And then the final thing is make sure you leave enough time for each task. Now that's leaving enough time, presuming that you're working with focus, determination, and eliminating distractions. If you're answering emails while you're trying to create a quote, if you're answering calls, if you've got your door open and people are coming in and out, you are not going to be working at your highest level with the most focus. So something that you scheduled for an hour could take 3 hours because you're distracted. So make sure you're eliminating distractions and then leave enough time for each task. Because remember, if you leave too much time and you work efficiently and get done your task faster than you thought, you've got your list of priorities and you just start working on your next priority. And then the final thing is honor your plan. You've made this plan using your logical prefrontal cortex. You've scheduled the things at the time you know that you'll get them done, and you've prioritized those tasks that are going to get you closer to your goal and allow you to be as efficient as possible. So honor your plan. When you look at your plan, you won't feel like doing it, but pretend that each of those things you've scheduled is a meeting with the CEO, and just power through it, because you know once you get started, it's never as bad as you expected. And once you're done, you'll have an amazing feeling of sense of satisfaction because you've got something productive done and you honored your plan, and you will see huge results. So good luck. I know that you can do it.